name is Opal. I'm actually the musical director of this show. And thank you. It's been a pleasure working with all these wonderful students. And wow, we're packed.
Hello, this is John Maggiore with MaggioreOnBowie.com. And this is the Maggiore on Bowie YouTube channel, where I feature a new interview every week that has something to do with David Bowie. And for daily content, visit the blog, www.MaggioreOnBowie.com, where I have new content every single day that almost always has something to do with David Bowie. Earlier this year, I attended a flat-out fantastic concert in Boston by students from the Berklee College of Music, which I am on solid ground as saying is the premier college for contemporary music in the United States and one of the overall premier music schools in the country. The students were joined by Earl Slick, one of David Bowie's most enduring guitarists and one-time guest on this show. Berklee has many Bowie connections. Bowie himself was awarded an honorary degree and gave the commencement address there in 1999. It's the only college that he gave a commencement address at ever. Some of his most influential collaborators attended Berklee, including Donnie McCaslin, co-creator of Black Star, and Reeves Gabrels, who co-wrote over 70 songs with Bowie and played with him for more than a decade. I learned about the concert from another former guest, Professor Gretchen Shea, who teaches a course on Bowie at Berklee and is involved with organizing what has now become an annual concert. And I don't know, but when I hear the term student performance, what I think of is my grade school band that only knew how to play the theme from MASH, which they played at every assembly and they did not play it well. But this was not that. Any one of these students could have easily made a different life choice and would already be an international superstar had they not decided to pursue the study of music at Berklee. Surely David Bowie would have been happy to play with any of them or to recruit any of them for his band. So today I'm thrilled to be joined by some of the student performers who, because they made the wise choice to go to college, are not yet international rock stars. But I'm not sure that that statement will be true between the time that we record this interview and the time that you are actually watching it. So I'd like to welcome some of the stars of Music and Meaning in the Works of David Bowie, a concert presented by the Berklee College of Music's Liberal Arts and Sciences Department. So welcome. Normally I just talk to one person, so I'm going to ask if you could just go around and introduce yourself and say, what was your contribution to the concert? Albin.
Hello, my name is Albin Sundström. I am a bass player from Stockholm, Sweden, but I'm currently studying at Berklee. I played bass on many of the tunes during the concert, as well as served as musical director for a few of the tunes, notably the tune Black Star, which I'm sure we'll get back to during this interview.
Yeah. Opal.
Hi, my name is Opal Gibbons. I'm from Portland, Oregon. I was the musical director of this year's show. I also performed in quite a few songs, and I was in the show last year, actually, where I took the class. Yeah.
Wow. Carter.
Yeah, I'm Carter Siebels. I'm from just outside of Worcester, Massachusetts, and I sang a bunch of tunes in the show, rather. Yeah, I sang Black Star as well as a couple others.
Yeah. Wow. And Jake.
I'm Jake. I'm from Centennial, Colorado. I played drums, played on like 4 different tunes for the show.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Really, again, fantastic show. Let me start by asking, why did you choose to pursue the study of music rather than just hit the road at the age of 16?
Yeah, I actually had an interesting thing with that because so I'm from Denver. I don't live in Denver, but I'm around Denver.
Yeah.
And I gigged in cover bands, which is mainly what the music scene is out there. I was in Guns N' Roses tribute. Is what I played drums in. And there was an interesting thing coming here because it's like Boston's a bigger city for music, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Original music. Out there's kind of a I hope it gets better, but there's kind of a drought right now in terms of what gets booked. A lot of the stuff that they want to book is covers, and here there's just like flourishing of original music, which is great.
Yeah.
Opportunity.
You seem like such a nice person. You're playing drums in a Guns N' Roses tribute band.
A little bit of an act there you got to put on.
I could speak to this a little bit.
Yeah.
I think of the people who are here today, I'm the only one who's not from the US specifically. I moved 9 months ago from Sweden to come here. And in Sweden, I came up kind of all throughout my high school time, gigging a lot, playing with bands, going on tour and doing that sort of thing. But for me, it had to do with getting the opportunity, like Jake said, to come to a bigger place, which America is in every sense of the word, than Sweden, you know.
Yeah.
For cover music and original music, for me, this was an opportunity to meet even more people who are doing this thing, and to be in a sort of melting pot of people who are all from different cities and different states and different countries. And of course, Berklee is perhaps the only place in the world where you get the chance to do these sorts of things, these sorts of big shows, the tribute shows that are actually arranged by
I
the
think-
school.
Yeah, Carter.
Yeah, for me, so coming from the suburbs, I didn't have a ton of gigging opportunities and whatnot. So I think obviously I came to Berklee to learn about music and harmony and all of that. But at the same time, I think it's really about making connections, which is the great thing about Berklee. There's so many people here that are such talented musicians, and any one of them I could see myself working with for a very long time. And I think that's really what it's all about, to establish yourself as a musician and make connections with other musicians who you can work with in the future, which I think is very important.
I did the 2-week Berklee program in Valencia, Spain, and I just like probably 3 years ago I auditioned there, and I got in really early, and I didn't audition for any other school. I was like, okay, this is it. I really enjoyed it. I think like I knew I wanted to go to college. I was unsure of whether I wanted to go for music or not, but as soon as I got into Berklee, I was like, yeah, okay, this is it. I
Yeah.
just think the college like experience is so not necessary, but it was for me. Like I needed that environment, and sorry, that's my cat. And I'm a production major here actually, so I figure like I already know how to sing, I know how to perform. Like, I mean, I've gotten better since I've been here, like, don't get me wrong, but I didn't think that I don't know. I mean, I'm taking classes in like learning how to use the modular and like instrument repair, like stuff that I would not be able to do on my own, that I think is really important.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. It's really awesome.
Well, you know what I'm going to say, you in the plural, not you as an individual. But when I was watching this concert, it struck me that you were so fluid with Bowie's music. I was wondering, what was your previous exposure to his music, or is it par for the course that to prepare for a concert like this, you familiarize yourself with something that you didn't previously know?
I think it's definitely a bit of a mix of both.
Yeah.
I had like obviously I'd heard David Bowie before. That would be pretty rare for that to not be the case. But honestly, before this class, I hadn't listened to very much of his stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting into this was like once we had all the casting and stuff figured out, it was kind of the thing of obviously you practice, but for me when I learn music, it's mostly passive listening. Like I'll be listening to it while I'm walking or going class to class and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What was your? I'm asking in the plural again. What was your first exposure to Bowie? I mean, other than casually hearing something on the radio, something like that.
I'm gonna answer this one first. If that's
Yeah.
okay. Actually, the little riff in Ziggy Stardust, the
Yeah.
my dad would play for me all the time when I was a kid, and I think I knew how to play that riff I think on ukulele was the first instrument I picked up. I knew how to play it long before I even knew what it was. I thought it was just like some melody he came up with, and then I listened to the actual album, and I was like, oh my God, I know this. I think I
Yeah.
knew a lot. My dad is the biggest fan of all time. Like, I knew a lot of his music before I even knew who he was. Um, you could say I'm a lifelong fan.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, at Berklee, when I first started classes here, I I was known as such a big Bowie fan. All of my professors were telling me to take this class, the music and
Yes.
meaning Works of David Bowie class. Like, I'd been hearing about it. It's I mean, it's a writing class, so like it's not I didn't even know that there was a show or anything involved. I really wanted to study Bowie, and it was like the only class that I'd ever prioritized as much as I have since being here. Like, I
Yeah.
scheduled my entire other classes all around this one class. And then I started the class, and it kind of blew my mind because like I thought that people taking the class would be as just as big into Bowie as I was. Like, I thought it was incredibly sought after. And I mean, yeah, you have some diehard Bowie fans in there, but you'd be surprised. Like, some people were like, "Oh, it just seemed fun." Like, I don't really
Yeah.
I don't really know him. I'm sure like yeah, y'all can vouch on that too. But I'm biggest Bowie fan of all time. It blew my mind. I mean, some people I did 5 years at the end of the show. I'm sure you know you saw.
Yes.
And it surprised me because some people didn't even know that song. I was like, how do you not know 5 years? That's crazy. Like,
You called up the spirit of 1972 and were so I don't want to say in character, but it was your performance. You left nothing on the table. And if you're a Bowie fan and you're able to perform with Earl Slick on stage with a band like this, are you projecting yourself into, I mean, is this something to paraphrase all the young dudes, I've always wanted to do this for years.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like,
It's
how do you project? How do you just like let it all go, or is it not letting it all go? Is it very controlled?
it's a mix of both, I'd say. I mean, so last year I did Rock and Roll Suicide. I was just a student performer. I wasn't directing or anything.
Yeah,
And Rock and Roll Suicide is my favorite Bowie song of all time. Favorite song of all time.
yeah,
It's like as soon as I heard that we had a show, I talked to Gretchen and I was like, I need this. Like, this is my song. And uh the weeks, months, I don't remember, a year ago, coming up to the show, I watched like every single live performance that there was of him doing that song. um I said right before the song, I said, oh, what did I say? I said, uh this this show is the last show that we'll ever do. I can't remember the exact quote, but I'm sure you know the one where
yes,
yeah. Anyways, I watched every performance that there was, and then I had little choreographed moments that Bowie would do, but because the song meant so much to me, like it was easy for me to just let it all go and speak from the heart.
yeah,
Which definitely also helped with my performance this year because that was my first BPC show, and so I mean, I've kind of been around the block now. It's a little bit easier for me, but back then that was really difficult. But choosing a song that meant so much to me made it easier.
yeah,
This year, I mean, it was just the same thing. I watched every single live performance I could, including ones that weren't of songs that I was doing. You have to really like, I mean, as a musical director, like people had a lot of questions for me. A lot of the students were asking me like what to do on stage when there were like guitar solos, or like um, what to do when they weren't singing or weren't playing, or even if they
yeah,
were playing, like, how to move around. And I was just like, watch the live shows, watch him perform, study him, research him. And then once you have once you know what you're gonna do, like the back of your hand, once you have those moments you want to bring out, those choreographed little like snippets that Bowie would do, everything else just comes easy. Because we're here to perform. Like, we love it. We're all musicians. Even if this is your first, even if this is your biggest gig or you haven't really gigged before, it's like you've definitely played your instrument before. You know,
Yeah.
like this is the fun part of going to Berklee. And so you just have to have fun with it.
Yeah. So, Jake, I want to ask you sort of a spin-off question, and then I wasn't planning to do it in this order, but I'm going to shift to then talking about the song Black Star. So, Jake, sort of along the same lines, I remember your playing. I remember what you look like while playing, and there's, this is not uncommon for drummers, but it seems like you're playing with abandon, right? I mean, it seems like you're not just playing the instrument, but there's a show in watching the drummer.
Yeah.
But it's obvious that you're controlled. It's not abandoned at all, right? But so, yeah. What is that? How do you strike that balance?
I don't know. There's a whole sort of thing. It's really that transition between like rehearsal and a show thing. When
Yeah.
we're putting in time to prep, we're focusing on how good can we get these parts. Let's get these transitions and stuff down, make everything tight. Obviously, we want the music to be good.
Yeah.
But you get to a point, and this is something that like I really try to sell myself on as like my thing is once you get to a show, it's like you shouldn't have the mental capacity to be thinking about the music.
Yeah.
I am there to grab the attention of everybody there.
Yeah.
That's our job is to entertain, to frighten people at times. That's what we're there for.
Yeah, I don't think you had your hair in a ponytail. It's
No,
flying
not,
all over the place,
not
right?
then.
So yeah. So wow, yeah, that's great. Let me shift to Black Star because Albin, did you play the bass line, the opening bass line?
Yes.
And Carter, you sang it.
I did, yes.
Yeah. So it is it's kind of a key song in David Bowie's whole repertoire because it's not actually the very last song that he performed, but imagine his legacy had he not done Black Star, right? So do you feel a kind of special responsibility in performing that particular song?
Yes, I felt a special sort of responsibility. I took it upon myself kind of to try and piece that song together, kind of found the band for it, and I that was the song that was the most special for me to do. It's one of the songs I've heard the most of David Bowie, growing up. I remember when that album came out, my father was a big Bowie fan. He played that for weeks and weeks. That was on the record player, that that CD.
Yeah.
But I remember it was very important to me to do it in a way that would have made David Bowie that he would in a way that he would have liked. And that isn't an easy song to do. It represents an entirely different conception of music than the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Working with Donny McCaslin's band, which was a jazz band, which is also the background that I come from, jazz. That song and that album represents an entirely different way to construct a song. There are parts of that song, I can speak from experience if I'm playing it, that have no parts written. Between part A and part B, there's a minute and 30 seconds where we don't know what's going to happen. We all just play,
Yeah.
And that part was very important to me. It was important to me to try to play the song as David Bowie may have imagined it while he was writing it, and as he would have wanted his musicians to play it. And it's, of course, that song is so meaningful because that entire album, that's his swan song. That was his way of taking control of his own mortality and kind of he himself decided that he was going to control his own legacy by releasing that album.
Yeah.
Like I said, what would David Bowie have been if he didn't make Black Star? Yes, he would have been a legend. He would have been one of the greatest rock and roll stars of all time. But the way we would have looked back on his career would have been entirely different if we.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to show you. I'm wearing like Black Star.
Bravo.
Because
So
as we were rehearsing a lot of these other songs, we're focusing on watching the live performances to see. We kind of matched our Moon Age Daydream with his performance at the Hammersmith Odeon. So, but obviously Bowie didn't get to perform Black Star live, so we kind of had to figure out. I mean, we absolutely could have tried to make it as close to the record as possible, but I think we also wanted to take some creative liberty to make it as Bowie would have when he played it live, which was kind of more responsibility on us to figure that out and figure out how we want to do that. But I think we really wanted to capture everybody's attention, especially because obviously a lot of people, people who don't know David Bowie super well, might not know this song and might have just been there for a kind of rock show. And obviously Black Star is not your typical rock song.
Right.
So I kind of went out on stage with the mentality that the people might love this or the people might find this crazy, but I'm just gonna give it everything we got, and really, because it's a huge tone switch from really everything else we were playing.
Right.
But I think it turned out very well. I've only heard good feedback, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking, Carter, it's like when you were singing this song, you weren't just interacting with the audience, you were interacting with the other musicians. Is that something that I just made up, or is that very deliberate on your part?
No, that was definitely a choice because I think it's so different, because I also sang Scary Monsters, for example, and that is so different. And I was very up in the audience and moving around. And for Black Star,
Scary Monsters, super creeps, keep me running.
for Black Star, I really wanted to. It's not as, I guess, difficult as a song to sing vocally, and I really wanted to be able to draw attention to the band, because that's what I think makes this song so cool. There's so many textural parts that the keys play, and the saxophone, obviously. So I really wanted to make sure everyone was shining, because so much of the song is just instrumental breaks and all this crazy stuff. And I think it was important to give everyone their moment, not try to take over too much. But it was definitely, and I think Black Star rehearsed probably more than any other group did. We really wanted to nail that song down because it's such an important one, and it's a hard one too. So I think we have a very good group that we made while rehearsing that. And I'm very proud of the work we did. So I think it was definitely a choice to make sure everyone was being heard, but also because I love these people. It was great. I mean, this whole show, but that group especially, I definitely think I made very close connections with.
To expand on what Carter was saying about the band in particular, because when I was finding some of the members of that band were not, never did this course, but were picked for the show, and I made a very conscious decision. But there is, with this type of music, the kind of music Black Star is, that isn't rock and roll in all honor, isn't rock and roll in that sense. That's highly improvisational, highly textural. You need to pick musicians who are intuitively musical and intuitively tasteful. So the musicians that we had, aside from me and Carter, we had Fiona Neff on vocals and Wesley McDaniel on drums, and Zach Perazzo on guitar. And then the two guests we had were saxophone was Dominic Ragazzi, and keyboard was Andrew Fogel. And the two of them, people I've played with before, and I chose them very, very consciously, because I knew they had a capacity for not only playing but using these things, listening. So much of that song, I know Dominic, the sax player, I didn't tell him anything what to play. I just let him into the rehearsal, figuring that he would know the song and that he would know what would be appropriate to play.
Yeah.
Whether or not we played exactly what Bowie played, I knew that those musicians, everyone in the band, we were able to tune into the same wavelengths, which is always important with this type of music. And I think that's what Bowie wanted from his band too. That's why he chose Donny McCaslin's band. He didn't pick and choose individual musicians. He picked a band that were already a unit.
Already a unit, and a unit that was not especially familiar with his own music. Yeah. So Opal.
Sorry.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you a question anyway.
Awesome. Well, I wasn't in Black Star this year, but I just wanted to add a funny little anecdote to Albin's response. Last year when we did Black Star, we had two flutists, a couple of saxes. We had a whole horn section. And so Berklee has is what's it called? Berklee collaborates with Boston Conservatory, and all of our horn members were from the conservatory, which so they're used to like big band stuff, like symphonies, like that's not jazz or rock music primarily. And so when it came to Black Star, we had obviously, I mean, I think of the song as in three sections. There's the first, like, in the Villa of Ormond, like that section into like the more jazz, big middle section, and then it fades back out into like a reprise of the first section.
Yeah.
And Albin was saying it's like all transitions. I agree, it is like all transitions. And these horn players were so lost. They would stop in the middle and they'd be like, "What measure are we at?" And there are no measures. Like, that's not how the song works. It was that was definitely a project. There were some rehearsals where I had to take a break to go cry in the bathroom.
Really? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was tough.
So wait,
yeah.
so just to be specific, why? What brought you to that level of emotion?
It was just, I mean, okay. First off, our Black Star band last year was I think 13 or 14 people. And I was in charge of that song.
Yeah.
And so it all kind of came down on me. And up until the actual, even one of our sax players quit the day of the show. And so because there were so many people and our schedules were so busy, even to the show, we didn't get a single rehearsal where everyone was present.
Yeah.
It was very stressful. It seemed like people weren't taking it as seriously as I was, which is just that's not the truth. People were. It's just that's how I felt, and schedules were busy. And then just like that kind of miscommunication, and I think it was mostly my horn section, to be honest. They didn't understand how stuff like this worked, and I couldn't simply just print them a lead sheet. I just, I was saying it's eye contact. It's on the eye contact. You look at me, I'll cue you when to do things. And they weren't used to that. They didn't get it. I mean, the actual song went really well at the end of the day. Like we did a really good job. I wouldn't have changed anything. But yeah, I mean, I know Black Star wasn't the only song this year that took a lot of work. Like, I think the show was so big and it meant so much to everyone involved. And I think everyone wanted it to go perfect.
Yeah.
And when you're in a rehearsal space where you're starting to have doubts on whether or not that's possible, it can be very emotional because you really want it to be.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask what makes for a challenging song and what doesn't. But before I ask you that, so think about that. But I want to go back to Carter just for a moment.
Sure.
Can you describe what you were wearing?
She wails, Sydney's guitar sound, jealousy scream, waiting at the lights, know what I mean?
Yeah, so I was wearing black jeans. I had a fancy belt that has a bunch of texture on it, and then I had a Rolling Stones t-shirt on with a big leather jacket over it. Yeah.
And you were wearing something else.
I was wearing the Aladdin Sane lightning bolt on my face, which progressively got a little melty throughout the show as I sweat through it. But yeah.
I remember more than two things, but I'm going to ask you about two things about your performance. I remember how you were dressed, and I thought he is not just randomly wearing a Rolling Stone shirt. So what I wanted to ask, what were you trying to communicate with your attire? And the other thing that was unmistakable about your performance, less so with Black Star than with everything else you're singing, you were running all over the stage, jumping up and down. Once again, it's like you seem like such a mild-mannered person, but you were, I mean, it was like, wow.
Yeah, I think so I come from a musical theater background a lot, so I think I have a lot of experience, being able to use a space in that way. that some other people might not have. So I especially with a song like Scary Monsters, I wanted to be all over the place because that's so energetic. And I think that that's so important because I could have just stood in one place and sang my heart out and it would have sounded great, but it wouldn't have felt like a real rock show. And that's not what David Bowie would have wanted, obviously. So I think the energy you bring is just as important as the actual talent you
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just what about the shirt? Like, why did you choose to wear that shirt?
Well, I was thrifting a lot to find something that would be good, and I based kind of what I was wearing. I don't remember what show it was, but it was some show that Bowie did in the 90s, I think. And he had this leather jacket and a white shirt under, and I thought about just wearing a white shirt, but I didn't have anything good. And then I found this Rolling Stones t-shirt that I thought was like, well, I mean, it's a rock show, obviously. So I thought I could do that. And then the day before the show, Earl Slick, who obviously joined us for the show, he also stepped into our class and talked to us. And he was talking about how he was super influenced by the Rolling Stones and how he really enjoyed their music. And I was like, well, now I have to wear it,
Yeah.
right? Now I have to wear that to show how much he loved it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, it wasn't super deep, but it felt right. I don't know.
No, I thought so. And Bowie was also influenced by.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. There's a funny, I don't know if you ever saw it, but before he was famous, he did this basically a stunt where he got on television with some of his friends and they all had long hair in the mid 60s. And the person interviewing them asked if they were wearing their hair long because of the Rolling Stones. And they were all like, oh, no, not at all. But he even, name checks either the Rolling Stones or Mick Jagger in a few different songs.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought what I took out of your attire was that you were making this continuity statement that I thought was very clever. So Opal, I wanted to sort of jump back and then just throw the question out about what makes a song challenging. But so you're the musical director. How much of this interplay that we're talking about is what you do as musical director? Non-musicians, and I'm not a musician, don't know what a musical director does.
Right. So my job primarily this year, I was kind of like the middle ground between all the student performers and sorry, my cat's going crazy. I don't know if you can hear it. I was kind of the middle ground between the student performers and then like Tech, Earl, but just I did a whole lot of communication. I created spreadsheets for all of the performers so that I could understand like who's doing what. It was a whole lot of tech work actually, like figuring out what exactly everyone's needs were for the show, if anyone had like specific equipment that they wanted to bring or needed from Berklee, how many people were involved in the show, just honestly a whole lot of paperwork. And then if any of the students had any questions, I mean, I was in the show last year, so I have like firsthand experience of how it's run, how a lot of the songs can be handled, stuff like that. And so whenever the students had questions about like how to perform certain things, how to go about certain songs, I could give my I don't want to say expertise, I'm not an expert, but my my understanding of how this goes on. So yeah, I mean, for example, like Carter didn't know what to do in Space Oddity because you just did the countdown, correct?
I did. I just did the countdown and then I was there with my space helmet.
Yeah, he was like, do I just come on, do the countdown and go off? And I was like, oh no, brother. You stay on and you commit. Like so yeah, and it was really fun, just like stuff like that. And I really enjoyed like I mean, I took the class last year and I was totally fine just leaving it at that. I mean, the show is so awesome. I would have loved to be in it again, but I mean, the student director gets obviously a role in the show. I did get to perform my own set, but getting to meet all of these wonderful students and like, I mean, I don't know, I've made connections for life. I love you guys. Like it was so awesome to meet all these people and to be so involved in a show that I care so much about. And of course, I got the cake and I did like all the little random bits here and there. I mean, Gretchen, the show leader, is such a busy lady. Uh,
Yeah.
so pretty, yeah, she's she's insane. She's juggling like 7 jobs all at the same time. It's insane. So anything that she didn't have the time to do, I was there to help with.
Yeah.
And yeah, so sorry, going back to your question, what makes a song hard? Black Star, I'd say, is definitely of the most challenging, just because no part of the song is like completely set in stone. It's a lot easier to just uh, find a chart online, read it, memorize it, regurgitate it on stage, than it is to like have to consciously make decisions, communicate with your band members. It just takes a whole lot of like, yeah, communication, understanding, patience. I mean, you have to really be in tune with the people you're on stage with. And then when you add in like the fact that there's 700 people in the audience, and I mean, this is a lot of you guys, this is your first time on the BPC. I think it's everyone's first time on the BPC stage. Maybe everyone's first time on a stage that big in front of such a big crowd. I mean, you get adrenaline in the mix, and like obviously mistakes are going to come out, but Black Star, you just have to really be in tune. I think another issue is, I mean, I don't know if y'all had this. My band had an issue with this. Some of the songs are follow similar chord progressions or have the same kind of chords in them, and so I'm a singer, so I didn't really have an issue with that. But a lot of my bandmates would like screw up the forms of the songs just because they're so similar to other songs that we're performing that it like, the neurons misfire and you just get confused. So no matter how much like memorization you do, it's difficult to keep every song in order, because there are so many. I mean, there are definitely other things. I mean, obviously his voice. I mean, Earl Slick was giving me some. I shouldn't curse. Please.
No, that's okay.
Shit.
We're far enough into the YouTube.
Yeah. Earl Slick was making fun of me a little bit because I kept having to change the keys of the songs that I'm in, and he was telling me, David Bowie had that 4-octave range. Like, I don't have a 4-octave range. Like, I mean, they are just technically challenging songs too, regardless of all the other little like nitpicky parts. Like, was an incredible singer, and it's hard to fill those shoes.
Yeah.
As well as every other person he's ever played with, every other musician. They're just so incredible, and having to step up and play those parts that they created is in front of Earl Slick too, who
Yeah.
was there. Like, that's really nerve-wracking. So you have to cross that barrier and give it your all, I guess.
I'm going to come back to Earl Slick, but in a moment. But sticking with the challenge part, I wanted to ask Jake. I recently heard, I do this thing on my blog every Monday. I pick a cover of the week. So there are many people, either professional bands or like somebody in a basement with a guitar, posts a new cover of a Bowie song every week. There's many to choose from. And a few weeks ago, somebody did just the drum part for The Man Who Sold the World. And I listened to it and I could not recognize the song. And I listened to it again and it was like, I don't hear it. I don't like, so when you're approaching a song to do the drum part, is there a different type of challenge than if you're approaching it as a singer, for instance?
In some ways, yeah. So I actually play pretty much everything that was involved in the show, minus like horns, strings, and keys. So I play bass, I play guitar, I play drums, and I sing. It's all about, like, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with the term active listening. It's like it's getting in touch with almost trying to isolate things while you're listening. So like really being able to listen to those drum parts while everything else is going on.
Yeah.
Sure, YouTube, you can find fancy stuff where it's like somebody's cut the drum part out or that kind of thing. But generally, like, especially for stuff that's this old where the mix is done a certain way, that's not really going to be possible. So like process wise, I did what I got used to doing from going to School of Rock because I went to School of Rock, Colorado for like 7 years. Um, and it's basically the instant we had gotten casting and stuff finalized, I go through and I chart the songs, I get the form done. And from there, it's just I listen as much as possible, make little mental notes of things, and then there's other stuff where like you have room to take your own liberties here and there, or I checked out live performances. Like our version of Scary Monsters was a lot more like some of the ones from the 90s, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. There was a lot. We were like, we could do it like the studio version, and that would be great. But we were like, we can make this a bit heavier, especially
yeah,
because I have a bit more of a rock and metal background.
yeah,
And I think we took a little bit of a risk and a liberty with it, and I think it paid off.
yeah, yeah. Well, I would say. So let me pivot. There's so much I want to talk about, but I don't want to take up your whole day. But so I'm gonna pivot to Earl Slick.
Don't let me hear you say life's taking you nowhere. Come get up, my baby. Look at that sky, life's begun. Nights are warm and the days are young. Come get up, my
So I interviewed him, and he seemed so friendly and modest. And I'm wondering if he had the same type of personality while you're actually playing with him. And just I'm gonna ask the question and then just shut up and listen to what you have to say. I was in particular interested in. So I don't know which of you performed on Stay, but that's it's such a fundamental David Bowie song that he it would be a different song were it not for Earl Slick. And also, I know that he was the one that asked to do Valentine's Day, which maybe I know Valentine's Day, but it's probably the least well-known song that was performed at the concert. So do you approach something like doing Stay with like essentially the co-author of Stay differently than you approach a different song? Or if you know that Earl Slick wants to do Valentine's Day, is like, do you approach preparing for the song differently? And what was he like to work with?
I think I was the only person here on Stay, and I will say he very much asked to do that song as well.
Yeah,
He came up with, I mean, we know he was on the Station to Station album, and that song, that riff, meant a whole lot to him.
yeah,
I had originally did it in a different key, and then I had it because I'm not David Bowie, and he we had a Zoom with him, and he was like, absolutely not, like it doesn't work. We need to do it this way. Like I need to do my riff, and so we changed it back for him, of course. And yeah, I mean, you can just tell he's very passionate about the music, and I mean, he talks a little bit about. I mean, he's also performed with John Lennon,
yes,
Bolan, I
yeah,
think New York Dolls. Like, I mean,
yeah,
plenty of very notable names, and he just The Cure, Robert Smith.
yeah,
Sorry, but David Bowie is you can just tell like his all-time favorite person he's ever worked with, for good reason. And I mean, he's just as like friendly on stage, I think, as he is in person. I mean, I personally was incredibly nervous to work with him because I don't. I mean, I interact with my band on stage. I mean, I try not to have like my back to the audience the whole time, but like it's good to look at the people you're playing with. But
yeah,
I had no clue how to even approach like performing with Earl Slick. I mean, especially like during tech, we spent he was only at Berklee for that Monday and Tuesday of the show, so we only got to practice with him on Monday of tech night.
yeah,
And even at tech night, we were rehearsing with him, we were figuring out the songs, and he still left it at a like, we'll see how it goes, which was it was fun, and I mean, we did see how it went, and it went great. Was a little bit frustrating maybe because no one else in the show is as used to that kind of uh, outlook as
Yeah.
maybe he is. I mean, we like to have it set in stone, but obviously it went great.
Yeah.
But he was just as like friendly on stage. I mean, he had fun with it too. I mean, like you know, he would look at me while I was singing, and like I could tell, like I think him and Tessa had a little guitar moment back to back.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Like I mean, like he was just one of the band members at the end of the day, you know, and it was great to have him on stage, and instead of like play for him, it very much felt like we were playing with him,
Yeah.
which was really wonderful.
I want to ask about that, but does anybody want to add anything to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a great time playing with Earl. I also I helped move some of his gear and like went to his hotel room, which was fun to like hang out with that briefly. Um, Working with him was amazing in this totally different sense because we have obviously being at Berklee, we are surrounded by kids who are like probably some of the best players on the planet that
Yeah.
are people who can shred your socks off, that kind of stuff. It was amazing though to play with him because being the kind of studio musician and the kind of person he is,
Yeah.
Earl is not like a big shredder guy or that
Yeah.
kind of thing, but he's got those like really key skills people need to have. He knows how to listen. He knows how to like when some of the arrangement things were like we had to change stuff or whatever. There was some stuff where he was like, "You guys just play, we'll roll with it." And he knew how to like I listened back to like the recording stuff like pretty much when I got back to my apartment after playing, and there was stuff where he's just like yeah, he admitted like there were some things where he's like I couldn't totally remember that part, and he just played what he felt and added some really nice textures and things there. It's like playing with somebody who has the kind of expertise that's not necessarily this virtuoso thing.
Yeah.
It's from just sheer time and experience. Like being on the road and doing that stuff for that long gives you a totally different skill set, which
Yeah.
is just amazing to get to work with.
So I wanted to ask, I mean, it sort of leads right into this. So I'm saying you guys in general, remind me who had the back-to-back moment with him, the guitarist? Tessa. Okay, who I have not met. That's why I asked who she is. So it struck me that a couple things. On the one hand, Earl Slick still absolutely, he still got it, right? But on the other hand, so did she. And, the whole band, it's, he was in his early 20s when David Bowie recruited him to replace Mick Ronson for the Diamond Dogs tour in 1974. And, the other musicians that were on that stage with him did not seem like inferior musicians. So what does he have to teach you, or what is still a challenge for you at this early stage in your career?
There's a lot of stuff that like stuff we have to learn here. I mean, again, like I said, there's tons of people here who can play.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I think in the music business that I'm sure everybody here can vouch for, that the music is part of it, but
Yes.
it's not even half of it.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you be professional? How do you be like, don't want to say you want to change yourself, but how do you be like likable? How do you make connections with people?
Yeah.
Are you easy to work with? That kind of thing. It's the playing thing is a huge part of it, but there is so much else that goes into it that's really important.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to say that I was glad that Earl Slick was being recognized by Berklee because, I think that he's a great guitar player. He's not the best self-promoter. And, if you think about it, certainly people my age have records or CDs that he's on. And I really think he's one of the most consequential guitarists in rock music, right? If you think about it, rock music is about 70 years old, and he's been at the center of it for 50 of those 70 years. So I thought that was a terrific addition. Let me ask you
And I'm a nobody people.
about Gretchen Shea. So did everybody on this call take her class?
Yeah.
Yeah. And as Opal had mentioned, it's more a literature class, right? So because I interviewed her, I knew about it, but why does somebody describe the focus of the class? Albin?
I mean, the focus of the class is putting the work of David Bowie, his music, in the context of literature, because lyrics and music are also literature, and they should be recognized as such, especially the kind of artistry that he had, that was deeply, that was filled with intertextuality and filled with references to history and into other forms of literature. You're reading the classics, be it the Iliad or 1984 or Dante's Inferno, and using those texts to kind of pick apart some of the themes and lyrics that David Bowie used, because his artistry is one just another branch on this in this big tree of literature. And I think all music is, but his especially, knowing that he was a voracious reader. On the first week of class, Gretchen showed us this big picture of like this big kind of travel case that he carried with him on tour, which was just filled with books. A big bookshelf he brought on tour. And that was her way of saying that his lyrics are anything but random. Nothing David Bowie ever did was random. Everything was very what's the word? Everything was intentional. Everything was filled with meaning. And the course is called Music and Meaning in the Works of David Bowie. So
yeah. Carter, when you're preparing to sing a song and you're looking at lyrics, do you look at them A, in a different way than when you're just listening, and then B, when you're do you reflect on the Iliad or Dante's Inferno to assign meaning to lyrics that you might not have had you not taken a course like Gretchen Shea's?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these songs that we did at the show are songs that we had looked at prior and analyzed and connected to reading that we had done. And I think it depends. Starman, for example, is one that I sang as well, and that's not as deep of a song as others. It's a great one, and I think it should be kind of taken with a more lighthearted tone. But then when there's something like Black Star, that's something that I think is important to really just think about, like, what you're saying.
Yeah.
And as someone who's done a lot of musical theater, I know the importance of acting what you're singing. And while this is obviously not the same thing, it's definitely important to convey that kind of darkness, really, that Black Star, it's kind of like an aura that it has around it, which is, I think, very important. And I mean, thinking about it in the context of literature, we talked a lot about Dante's Inferno when we discussed that song, and it's something I was definitely considering being up on stage, but really just capturing the feel that it has, I think, is the most important part.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Now that you're preparing to sing a Bowie song, now that you've performed a Bowie song, do you assign your own meaning to these songs?
I mean, yes. I think, like, I mean, at least the songs that I did, like, I did the medley of Wild Eyed Boy into All the Young Dudes, into Oh You Pretty Things, and I think it really helps. I mean, that song is very, especially the transition from Wild Eyed Boy into All the Young Dudes.
Yeah.
So beautiful and very, I mean, even just musically emotional to me. And so
As he breaks the night to cry.
I mean, we've all lived, if not 20, almost 20 years of life. So we have, I mean, obviously we're still young, but like, you know, we've been through some things. So I think having a situation or experience to draw back from and attach these lyrics and songs to helps with your performance because it makes you more authentic, more genuine. And sorry, I don't want to keep talking about last year, but like Rock and Roll Suicide, which was a favorite song all time,
Yeah.
gotten me through more than I can say. And being able to get on stage and just, you know, scream to hundreds of people, "You are not alone!" Like it really it does mean a whole lot. And being I mean, just being a musician and being a performer, it's you're kind of expected to be able. I mean, it is acting at the end of the day, you know. Like
Yeah.
when an actor says if they're doing an emotional scene, and they'll often say like they'll think about something sad that happened in their life, you know, and it helps them express those feelings in front of the camera. And the same thing is true for music. You have to be able to experience and understand those feelings in order to showcase them on a stage. And so, yeah, I think attaching your own meaning is definitely crucial, even
Yeah.
to being able to perform these songs.
Yeah. Wow. Well, unless anybody else wants to jump in on that, I'm gonna, yeah, Albin.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep you too long.
No. I'm keeping you too long. I could talk to you all day.
I just wanted to add a thought I had about you mentioning interpreting lyrics. I think we all, through the process of learning this material and getting familiar with it, we all develop our own idiosyncratic relationships with the lyrics and the themes of these songs. I think about, for example, my friend Fiona Neff sang on "I'm Afraid of Americans," which I had a special relationship to because I was the only person on stage that was not an American,
Yeah.
and what that could have meant. And I can only, I can only imagine what led David Bowie to write that song. The lyrics are kind of a pastiche on American culture, but certainly with those types of tunes, and I think all of this material, the more you listen to it, the more we all create our own vision of perhaps what David Bowie may have meant. And I think that's kind of the point of a lot of music with lyrics, is that it resonates in the audience, not because the audience understands 100% of what the artist meant, but because we fill in the gaps. I filled in the gaps. What could possibly make someone be afraid of Americans today? Surely the things are different than
I don't know.
years ago. We have my own reasons, but that goes for all of this, and of course those idiosyncratic relationships were deepened by us taking the course as well and putting the songs in the context of these literary works, I think.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't mean to totally piggyback add another song thing, but a thing I thought I did have about that, I had a big connection to I think the lyrics for Heroes and kind of
Yeah.
reinterpreting that a little bit. And I kind of had a moment when we're playing where, I mean, it's part of the benefit of when you run stuff enough and everybody's well rehearsed, you don't have to worry about what you're doing on stage.
Yeah.
And just like, without delving into specifics, and this could go on much longer, obviously there's a lot wrong with the world right now.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And it was kind of like a lot of those lyrics are really reassuring that, like, it's unfortunate what's going on, and it's like, for a moment, being able to just have a moment on stage where nothing else matters other than we're cultivating that experience with the audience, and we're sharing that with them, and they're sharing it with us.
Yeah.
That we could be heroes just for one day.
Yeah.
That kind of thing is that really resonates with me.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. So you guys have been terrific. I want to ask two closing questions, and the first is an important one, and the second is not. But I ask everybody that it comes on the show the same closing question. But the important one is this: what's next, and where can I get tickets?
Does anyone want to go first?
I'll
Should I go?
start.
Go ahead.
You go?
Sure. I'm in a punk band called Requiem.
Yeah.
So I'm working on. We're gonna be going home and recording an EP this summer. Should hopefully be out sometime in the fall. That's the main thing I've got going on.
Well, Jake, let me know, and I'll at least plug it on my blog.
Will do. Thank you.
Yeah.
We love Requiem. Grace was also in the show. Talk about Grace for a second.
Yeah, Grace is Requiem's lead singer.
Yeah.
She's
She played
one of my
guitar.
best friends, one of the first people I met at Berklee. And she funny thing, when I put the band together, she reached out to me about can I sing in your band? I'd never heard Grace sing before.
Yeah.
It wasn't even can I? It was I need to sing in your band. I'm like, okay, let's figure it
Yeah.
out. And no, she's great.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, I'll go next if that's
Go
cool.
ahead. Yeah.
I'm also in a kind of riot girl punk rock band called Fatal Femmes, and we are going on a little mini tour in. We're still planning it out. It seems like late July, maybe early August, but that'll be on the West Coast. So anyone that can make it, I know we've got shows set up in Seattle and Tacoma. I'm trying to get us some gigs in Portland, and we're recording some songs. We'll see. After that, I'm going to Berlin to assist with a big electronic festival over there. Most of what I do is electronic stuff.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. I'm not actually in the festival, but if my assistant work goes well, then maybe I will be next year. So crossing my fingers. And then just Berklee stuff. Normal
Nice.
Berklee stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Excellent.
I hate to be a bore. I don't have anything big coming up over the summer, but I will be, other than just working and whatnot. But I will be back next semester, so I'm sure I will definitely have more stuff coming with all these wonderful people.
Yeah.
I next week I am flying back home to Sweden to go on tour. First with a band of Berklee students that I'm actually bringing over. Three of my friends are in a jazz quartet, which I am leading to play some of my original music. They're flying back, and I'm gonna keep gigging around Sweden. We'll see if I get out of Sweden. There's some secret plans, but you never know.
Yeah.
And then bigger news for this interview, of course, is that I'm very honored to have been accepted to be the musical director of the Bowie show for next year. I'm
Excellent.
taking over from Opal, which is, kind of a big responsibility. Following Opal is kind of scary, but I'm very excited to see what next year brings, and I can't wait to make this show as good as it can be.
Yeah. Well, that's terrific. I now that I know about the show, it's I live in Albany, New York, which is about a 3-hour drive from Boston. So it's my intent to come back. And so Albin, by all means, let me invite you back to promote the show as we get closer to it. And this show and the blog, they're not the biggest venues in the world, but if you ever want me to promote something, just let me know. It's my blog. I can do whatever I want with it. So it's a standing offer. And one other thought is, there are Bowie shows certainly all over the Northeast and all over the world. Actually, I know there's an excellent Swedish Bowie band called DB, the David Bowie Experience. And if the students who performed the show that I saw ever wanted to get back together and do a Bowie show, there would be an external audience for that almost anywhere. So just a thought. But let me close by asking the silliest question, but one that I ask everybody, and you're all on the hook. What is your favorite David Bowie song and album?
Can I go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. I've established my rock and roll suicide love. Yeah, I gotta say rock and roll suicide, all-time favorite. Favorite album, that's I kind of I'd say like Ziggy Stardust. Well, I'd say specifically Ziggy Stardust, the live album.
The motion picture?
Yes, the motion picture. That one. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, except when you mentioned that you did Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud, and I remember my reaction as you were singing it, that it's a kind of obscure song. That's interesting. And then I realized you were doing the medley, which comes
Yeah.
from Ziggy Stardust Motion Picture, and it just in my head, I'm like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah. When Gretchen asked me to direct this year's show, she asked me last year.
Yeah,
And I was thinking, I mean, I love so many Bowie songs. I knew I didn't want to take too much time away from the student performers, so I was like really trying to keep it concise, but I struggled at least for like 7 or 8 months trying to figure out which songs I wanted to do, but that medley was the first part that I knew I wanted to do, and it was the only 3 songs that never changed.
yeah,
Like I needed to do those. So I'm really happy it turned out good. But yeah, so I'd say Rock and Roll Suicide, all time favorite song, Motion Picture, Aladdin Sane, and Black Star are like top 3, and they're fighting for first place. But I've never been able to make a full decision.
excellent.
But yeah.
Yeah, Albin.
For my favorite album, it has to be Black Star. Just as an album experience, listening from the front to back to that album, and of course the added context of knowing
Yeah.
what Bowie was going through at the time makes that to me the most powerful experience I've had with Bowie. As far as individual songs go, though, I must say probably "It's No Game" off Scary Monsters. Also one of my favorites. An amazing album, amazing song.
Yeah.
What a vocal performance, eh?
Yeah, that's actually my favorite album, of Scary Monsters.
Good.
Yeah, Carter.
Yeah, I think my favorite song is probably Station to Station. I love
Yeah.
It's a very good one. And then in terms of an album, I'd probably say either Ziggy Stardust, which obviously is a basic answer, or Black Star, which is also what everyone's saying. But I don't know. It definitely, I have a newfound appreciation for Black Star as a whole after being able to perform it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to interrupt before we get to Jake, but you mentioned Station to Station, which Earl Slick was so instrumental. And did you talk to him about it?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I wish we had gotten to play it, but there's only so much time in the show. But yeah, I mean, he talked a lot about this. We talked about Station to Station, and he talked about obviously his a lot of the work he did. But that's one of my favorite solos. I think it's just so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jake?
I will preface, comparatively to the rest of these people, I'm
Yeah.
still very early in my David Bowie journey. I've got a lot more to listen to. But
Yeah.
album's got to be Ziggy. Just so far. And I love Suffragette City.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one just rips. That's great.
Great song. Yeah. Well, guys, this is really terrific. I'm so happy that you agreed to give me some of your time, because I've really enjoyed this conversation. Not as much as I enjoyed the concert, though, because that was just blew me. So please, let's stay in touch. And Albin, I want to come see the show next year. And
Front row tickets.
excellent. Thank you. So I'm very, very grateful. And let's stay in touch. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
All right.